afternoon, everybody. It's metalhead weatherman here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. So, as you can see, doing things a little bit different today. Severe weather's been the dominant topic on the channel here, along with our occasional outlooks, but today we are watching Tropical Storm Rafael. Rafael formed yesterday, actually, and got upgraded into a tropical storm as we were streaming severe weather, ironically. We actually made the announcement on stream that Rafael formed. It's evolved quite well here, actually, over the last few hours. This is actually probably even stronger than what we're looking at the current time here. I'm pretty sure by later this evening, Rafael will become a hurricane. It is slated to actually become a hurricane. It's actually forecast to even make it all the way up to Category 2. Quite a few models are pushing it right towards Category 2 or right at the edge of it here. So would expect 100, maybe even all the way up to 105 mile per hour winds. But in any case, though, we do expect this to weaken after the 60-hour time frame here. Pretty much every model I've seen so far has been showing a plot of this weakening as it draws closer to landfall here. So there's some good news to be had there. There are impacts that we do have to be watchful of, and also we do have some hurricane and tropical storm warnings in effect here. Most of the hurricane warnings will probably be reserved for Cuba and the Caymans here. Over towards the Florida Keys, though, we do have a tropical storm warning in effect here. We also are on that right front quadrant, so we always have to be watchful of that tornado threat as well before all is said and done. Now, as far as landfall is concerned with Rafael, there's a lot of questions to be had here. There's a lot of model disagreement in regards to where Rafael will go. A lot of models have kind of been trending more so towards Mississippi and Alabama coast, but we still could see New Orleans in play, maybe even eastern parts of the Texas coast here. West Louisiana is definitely not out of the mix as well either. So pretty large area towards the very end of this cone that we're having to keep an extra close eye on here. So the main thing that I can really go over right now as far as U.S. impacts are concerned in regards to tropical storm force winds. Right now it looks like the Florida Keys, I would expect winds to pick up probably just around early morning tomorrow, I would say. Even the Panhandle could start to get into some of the winds here by, I'd say, mid-morning, maybe early afternoon. And then eventually, depending on where this goes, because that's going to have a huge impact as to when we could see tropical storm force winds. It could be any time from, I would say, Thursday morning into even Friday afternoon, we would start to see those impacts. Any sort of shift could change this dramatically. So a lot going on there. Now, in regards to the environment for this and why this is going to be weakened, it's not having anything to do with necessarily the surface temperatures over here. The sea surface temperatures are still pretty ideal when it comes to tropical development. The waters do get a little bit cooler as we get closer to land here. This is pretty typical towards the end of the hurricane season. Hurricane season ends on November 30th, by the way. But as you can see here, we still have waters that are hospitable. Cannot get my words out today. We still have waters that are hospitable for tropical development. But really the other two factors that we often look at, wind shear and also dry air, are going to be coming into play here. As you can see, as we get closer to that time where we would anticipate landfall here, wind shear becomes a very big factor on the north and northwest side of the storm here. So anticipate this storm weakening. You can see it represented pretty well with this low pressure center's pressure starting to increase here. Higher pressure usually means a weaker storm. Lower pressure is a much stronger storm. As we go across the board, and this is two different models that this is the same model we're looking at. Used to looking at the GFS ensemble and GFS operational, we're looking at the HAFSA. But in any case here, regardless of whether we're looking at the relative humidity or the wind shear, a lot working against this system. And another interesting thing that I've noticed here, and you'll be able to pick it up whenever I go back over to the main outlook map, it's this area right here. It's a 30% chance of development within the next 7 days for this region. And if we go over to the HAFSA here, I was about to call it B for whatever reason, you can see that this area pops up here. But the thing to make note of here is this low pressure feature that's over the US here. I do anticipate this to not only bring some dry air into the equation, but also maybe even kick this storm out to sea. So as of right now, I'm not too concerned as to what could happen with this. But keep an eye on this one nonetheless. I don't expect significant impacts from it. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that the environment over this region is not going to be very hospitable for the tropics further out from this point. We still, of course, will have to keep an eye on the Caribbean because, as we saw earlier, the waters towards the region are very warm and relatively untapped here. We're still getting close to that 90-degree Fahrenheit mark over here towards the Caribbean. It's really not until we get into the Gulf here where we start to see a little bit of the cooling of the waters here. Nonetheless, still very much hospitable for tropical development. So, last thing we'll go ahead and do is take a look at what could be the overall structure of the storm. This is when the storm's at its peak right here, when it gets right up to Cuba for landfall here. This is the lowest pressure we're going to see. It's going to be right at about 972. This is when we would probably anticipate to be a category 2. After that point, it starts to weaken pretty notably. Still have plenty of rain, and there's also going to be quite a wind threat with this as well. But as this draws closer to landfall, as you can see here, really starts to come apart already before making it onto shore here. Mainly from the HAFS, we're thinking probably it could be close to Louisiana, maybe Biloxi, where we get a landfall. Of course, like I said, this is very much variable, so to speak, in regards to the forecast here. So a lot can change here. But nonetheless, though, we'll be making a much more detailed and in-depth update as to what's ahead here a little bit later this week. But that being said, a little short video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Make sure you get that notification bell on too. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.